Hey, it's Brilliant Blunder with some more easy mates in one. So let's first of all, I'll let you pause the video if you want to try to figure it out, and then I'll go through each problem and explain how to do the mate. Okay, so let's look at the squares that are taken away by pieces. So the queen is taking away those 3 squares and these 2 squares. This bishop is taking away this square and this square. And this rook is taking away these squares. So all we have to do is find a move that puts the king in check. So if we move this rook here, that would put him in check. And this rook isn't doing anything as far as holding pieces together. So if we move it here, that would be check, and he would still not be able to move to those squares. Or we could move it here, and that would also be mate. We couldn't move this rook because to put him in, well, wait, we could put this rook here actually, so that's another way. Nope, that wouldn't work. If the rook is here, then the king would be able to move to this square. So we need to move this rook either here or here. Checkmate. All right, next problem. I'll let you pause the video. All right, so let's take a look at what's taken away. These 3 squares are taken away by the queen. These 2 squares are taken away by this bishop. So we need a move that puts the king in check and takes away this square. And if we move the queen right here, he'll be in check and it'll take away this square. So that's checkmate. And he can't take the queen because he'd be moving into check from the bishop. You can go ahead and pause the video if you need to think about it. Okay, so let's take a look at what's being taken away. The queen is taking away these 2 squares. The knight's taking away this square. So we need a move that puts the king in check and takes this square away as well. And if you move the queen right here, that's checkmate because he can't take the queen because that's check from, he'd be moving into check from the knight. And the queen being here takes away these 2 squares as well. So right now the king doesn't have any free squares that he can move to, so we just need a move that puts him in check. And that would be here, and he doesn't have anything that he can take it with. This wouldn't work because the pawn can take, and there isn't anything to do with the queen. Alright, I'll let you pause the video if you want to think about this one. Okay. This one, let me just tell you, this one is a mate for black. So I'll let you pause the video. Okay, so this king, right now the queen is taking away these 2 squares. The rook is taking away these 3 squares. And the bishop is taking away these 2 squares. And this rook is taking away these 3 squares. So we need a move that just puts him in check. And one way to do that is to move this rook right here. That's checkmate because he can't take the rook because he'd be moving into check from the bishop. Alright, and this is mate for white now, and I'll give you a few seconds to pause the video. Okay, the knight is taking away these two squares, and the rook is taking away these two squares. So we need a move that puts him in check, and that move is going to be this rook right here. And he can't capture the rook because he'd be moving into check from the other rook. Alright, this is a mate in one for white. I'll let you pause the video. Okay, the king can go here, so we need a move that puts him in check and takes away this one square that he can move to. And that move is going to be capturing this pawn with the queen. That's check, and he can't go here because of the queen, and he can't capture the queen because the knight is guarding the queen, and he'd be moving into check from the knight. Alright, this is mate in one for white. I'll give you a few seconds to pause the video. So the black king cannot move here because of this rook. So we need a move that puts him in check and takes away these two squares. And that move is going to be moving this rook up here. Alright, this is another mate in one for white. The king, I'll let you pause the video. Okay, the king cannot go here or here because of the bishop. He cannot go here or here because of the rook. Here or here, also because of this rook. So we need a move that puts him in check and takes away this square. And that would be this move right here. He can't capture the rook because the knight is guarding the rook, and he would be moving into check from the knight. And he can't go here because this is also check from the rook. Last one. This is going to be a mate in one for white. I'll let you pause the video. Okay, right now the queen is taking away these two squares. So we need a move that takes away the remaining three squares where the king can move to and puts him in check. And that move would be this queen right here. He's in check, and he can't go here or here because those are also check from the queen, and he can't capture the queen because the knight is guarding it.